All right, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood animals out there. We're going to need you to forget everything you think you know about laziness because we're about to uncover the secret life of the sloth. You know, the word sloth itself is just baked right into our language. In English, it's literally a synonym for laziness. It's one of the 7 deadly sins, for crying out loud. And of course, it's the name we slapped on this famously slow-moving animal. And it's not just an English thing. This idea is pretty much global. In German, they're called Faultier, which literally means lazy animal. In French, paresseux, lazy. It seems like for centuries, the whole world has taken one look at this creature and just collectively decided, yep, that one's lazy. But here's the thing that flips this whole idea on its head. What if we've been looking at this completely wrong? What if this animal isn't some failure at being fast, but an absolute master of being slow? What if that slowness is actually its greatest strength? So that brings us to our first big idea. We're going to look at slowness not as a flaw, but as this brilliant survival strategy, a superpower that was forged by the logic of living a super low-energy life. So what's the big problem a sloth has to solve every single day? It all comes down to its diet. They pretty much only eat leaves, and leaves are, well, they're tough, they have very few calories, and they're incredibly hard to digest. It's kind of like trying to power your body by eating nothing but celery. It's a huge challenge. And the solution? To become the world's greatest energy conservationist. Sloths have a metabolism that's less than half of what scientists would expect for a mammal their size. Every single movement is slow. It's deliberate, all to save those precious calories. And as a bonus, that slowness is the perfect camouflage, making them practically invisible to predators that hunt by sight, like harpy eagles. And get a load of this. A sloth's body temperature, when it's active, is already pretty low, between 30 and 34 degrees Celsius. But when it's just chilling out, it can drop its internal thermostat all the way down to 20 degrees. They're basically masters of turning down the heat to save on the energy bill. This chart really drives the point home. See, muscle burns a lot of energy. It's expensive to maintain, so sloths have evolved to have way less of it. While most mammals are somewhere around 40 to 45% muscle, sloths are down at just 25 to 30%. They are not built for power. They are built for pure efficiency. Okay, so now let's see how this whole low-energy strategy has shaped their entire body. Their anatomy is just this wild feat of engineering, perfectly designed for a life spent hanging upside down. Seriously, every part of a sloth is about function. Those giant carved claws, they're not for fighting. They're basically living coat hooks that let the sloth hang from a branch using almost zero energy. For three-toed sloths, their arms are a full 50% longer than their legs, giving them this incredible reach. And get this, even their hair grows in the opposite direction of most mammals, away from their hands and feet, so that when they're hanging upside down, the rein just runs right off. And here is one of the single weirdest facts in all of biology. Almost every mammal on Earth, from a tiny mouse to a giant giraffe to you and me, has exactly 7 vertebrae in its neck. It's like a fundamental rule. But the three-toed sloth, it just breaks the rule. It has 8, sometimes even 9. This lets it turn its head almost 270 degrees like an owl to spot food or danger without having to move its body one bit. Just when you thought the story couldn't get any stranger, it turns out a sloth isn't just an animal. It's a habitat. It's a slow-moving, living, breathing ecosystem, hosting a whole community of other critters. Yeah, that shaggy fur is a miniature world. There's a special kind of green algae that grows in grooves in its hair, giving it amazing camouflage up in the trees. And living inside that algae is a species of moth that exists literally nowhere else on the planet, except in the fur of a sloth. And this brings us to one of the biggest puzzles in sloth science, their weird bathroom habits. About once a week, a sloth makes this incredibly slow, incredibly dangerous trip all the way down to the forest floor, just to poop. So why take such a huge risk? Well, the leading theory is that it's all about that relationship with the moths. The moths lay their eggs in the sloth's poop. When the new moths grow up, they fly up into the sloth's fur. Their bodies then help fertilize the algae, which the sloth can get nutrients from. So that risky trip down the tree, it might just be the sloth tending its own personal portable garden. So far, we've pictured the sloth as a small, slow, tree-hugging creature. But what if I told you that's only a tiny, tiny fraction of their story? It's time to reveal the sloth's absolutely epic past. The answer to that is a huge, emphatic no. The sloths we see today are just the last survivors of what was once a massive and incredibly diverse family of animals. And this just says it all. On the left, you've got our modern tree sloth. And on the right, that's Megatherium, an ancient ground sloth that was the size of a modern elephant. These absolute giants used to roam all over North and South America. And it gets even wilder. Some ancient sloths, like a species called Thalassicunus, actually left the land behind completely. They became marine animals, adapting to life in the ocean, swimming around and eating seagrass off the seafloor. Can you imagine that? Swimming, elephant-sized sloths? So what happened to all these incredible giants? Well, this timeline is pretty telling. Their decline and eventual extinction lines up almost perfectly with the arrival of another species on the scene, us. Most of the giant ground sloths vanished about 11,000 years ago, right around when humans were spreading across the Americas, and the last of the Caribbean sloths died out not long after people colonized those islands. And that brings us right back to the present day. The 6 species of sloth that are left are the last of a great dynasty, and they are incredibly successful, but they're also facing a whole new set of challenges. And don't ever mistake slow for unsuccessful. In the right environment, like on Barrow, Colorado Island in Panama, sloths are so successful that they make up an incredible 70% of the total weight of all the tree-dwelling mammals combined. They have absolutely perfected their niche. But their world is changing and fast. 2 of the 6 remaining species are now either vulnerable or critically endangered. And the threats they face today are almost all because of us, coming into contact with power lines, poaching for the illegal pet trade, and of course the constant threat of losing their forest homes. So we end up right back where we started, but now with a totally new perspective. The sloth isn't a symbol of laziness at all. It's a master of efficiency. It's an evolutionary marvel that traded brute force for endurance and speed for stealth. It really shows us that survival isn't always about being the fastest or the strongest. It's about being the best at living in your own world. The real question is, can they adapt to the new one that we're creating?